This is a Stereoforest production from stereoforest.com. Information, resources, and opportunities to support the show and connect with others are available at stereoforest.com/dailyreconnect. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you have specific mental health concerns, please consult with a qualified healthcare professional. Now, on to the show. This episode begins with an exercise designed to connect to the present using textures. And then we have a discussion on standing firm when opposing forces want you to break. Welcome to the Daily Reconnect. It's Wednesday, March 19th, and I'm your host, deHaan. This quick episode is designed to ground you in the present moment when you're feeling separated or out of touch with the world around you. And after our exercise, we'll find some motivation together to embrace the day ahead while standing firm on the ground and persisting. Embrace and use whatever works for you during this exercise. And you're free to adapt or set aside anything that doesn't feel good or meets your needs. This space is yours to center and to find balance. Our theme for this week's exercise is news overwhelm and how that can disconnect you from your immediate reality. In today's exercise, we're going to use our senses, physical touch, and tactile experiences to bring you into the present moment. After this exercise, we'll conclude with some thoughts to help you maintain a grounded presence throughout your day. So let's begin by finding a comfortable position or a sustainable walking pace, and then take several deep breaths. Now start by bringing awareness to your hands. Rub your palms together slowly and notice the warmth and the friction that this creates. Feel the unique lines and contours of your own hands. This is an experience that's unique to you. Now, reach out and touch something nearby to you. It could be furniture, or it might be an element of the environment if you're outdoors, some leaves, a branch, or it could be the fabric of the clothing that you're wearing today. Notice that object's temperature, its smoothness or its roughness, its weight and its resistance against your hands. And explore this texture with just curiosity, as though you were encountering it for the first time. Does the sensation change as you apply different amounts of pressure? Does the texture of that object have any variations within it? Now find a second texture that contrasts with the first one that you chose. If you started with something soft or pliable, perhaps now find something firm. Or if the first object was something smooth, seek something textured this time. And in this part of the exercise, compare those different sensations, noting how your nervous system responds to each one. And as you continue to explore these textures, notice how focusing like this brings you into the present moment, the present experience. When we're fully engaged with physical sensations, our attention can shift from worrying about something or ruminating about the future or the present to concrete experiences in the now. As you explore these textures, notice how this sensory focus naturally brings you into the present moment. When we're fully engaged with physical sensation, our attention shifts from worrying or ruminating to this concrete experience in the now. Now let's consider some options for using this exercise to help you during times that are of stress. Choose one texture that feels particularly grounding, and then designate that as your anchor. This is a sensory experience that you can return to when you feel overwhelmed, perhaps by the news. And perhaps this is something that you can take with you. It might be a bracelet, or it might be the weave of your wallet, say, or it could be as simple as clasping your hands together. Now take some final deep breaths, and let's return to the present moment. In the previous episode, we recognized how our systems in place can deliberately, intentionally isolate us. Today, we'll explore another difficult idea that these systems also often want you to give up hope, so you give up trying to resist. When power belongs to fewer and fewer people, when fascist rhetoric becomes mainstream and normalized, when basic needs become increasingly inaccessible, they're pressures that are designed to exhaust your capacity. And when that capacity is gone, you won't resist. And the constant barrage of news, of crisis, the normalization of the suffering, the undermining of facts and truth itself, all of this kind of creates emotional or mental fatigue that makes surrendering to all of it seem like the only option that we can do. And the message that we receive, even our own self-talk, it can be relentless. Your efforts, they don't matter, or nothing will change. Accept things as they are. And that can be pretty damaging too. So I want you to recognize this for what it is. It's a strategic attempt to break your will to fight for something better, to fight for that change. And we need to recognize that before we can really resist this idea. So this resistance really starts with identifying what remains within your control, even under these really immense pressures that we face. While the systems, they might limit your material or your environmental circumstances, but they cannot unless you allow them take over your mind. Your thoughts remain your own. You can choose what narratives you accept and which ones you question. When the media presents human suffering as inevitable or normal, you're allowed to reject that idea. When consumer culture equates your worth with your productivity or what you own or where you live or however you were born, you can choose to accept alternative values. Your words remain your own. How you speak to yourself matters so much too. Self-talk impacts a lot of your capacity for endurance, really. So does how you speak to others, of course. And you can choose to speak with kindness. You can choose to speak with clarity about what's happening for real. And all of that creates a space of resistance, even when we are surrounded by people who try to dehumanize others. Your attention is yours. What you choose to focus on or learn about or share or amplify, all of that shapes your community around you and their understanding of what can be achieved. You don't need to ignore hate or ignore damage or remain silent, but you can choose to draw attention to the positive or what needs our shared momentum. What you consume, that remains yours to choose. This can be constrained by circumstance, of course, but there are many opportunities to align what you buy with your values. Each decision to support local economies or support small business or not support the animal agriculture business, ethical production choices, for example, all these things represent removing some of the power from exploitative, destructive, or misaligned value systems. And this can make a huge impact, like buying Canadian products. Your capacity for connection, that remains your own too. Even small acts of solidarity, checking in on your neighbor, or sharing some resources that you have, or volunteering your skill set. These connections can help build the world that you want to see and sustain you when individual resistance feels futile. Today, I invite you to identify just one thing that you can control. What is one thing in your control? Choose something that feels like the most accessible thing right now and see if you can put that into practice, or if you already are, maybe a little bit more, or find something new. This could be as simple as shifting your self-talk after watching the national news, perhaps. Perhaps you swap participating in a negative online thread with instead searching for an organization to volunteer with or something. Or maybe it's shifting one of your purchases to a small company instead, one that aligns with your values, like, say, a local farm stand. Resistance has typically started with us humans, groups of us, who refused to surrender our autonomy even when it has been severely restricted or even lost entirely for a while. Even from some people in the most dire circumstances within history, people have protected what they can control, to think clearly, to connect with others sharing their values, and to act with dignity. In tomorrow's episode, we'll explore how to connect this personal resilience to collective movements that multiply its power. You are part of this great history. Your refusal to be broken is itself a meaningful act of resistance. We're all woven into something more expansive than ourselves, a world that holds possibility for improvement and is a lot better because you're here existing within it. So that's it for today, March 19th. Thank you so much for joining me, and let's connect again on Friday for a vagus nerve reset exercise. Thank you for listening to the Daily Reconnect. Episodes are released on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday every week. This show was created, written, hosted, edited, and produced by deHaan. Links to contact information, ways to support the show, transcripts, the free newsletter, and our community Discord can be found in the show notes. This is a Stereo Forest production.